Hello everyone, my name is Hussein Jabir. I'm the Director of Fraud and Financial Crimes at GoodLabs Studio. Today we will be showcasing how we can leverage Neo4j, the powerful graph database tool, to conduct in-depth link analysis and uncover hidden relationships within criminal organizations. For this demonstration, we have used our GoodLabs graph database integration model to bring multiple complex sources of financial institutions' data into the graph database. For this specific use case, we look to identify misused identification documents, primarily looking for customers using the same identification number with different documents. This problem stems from the criminals having access to blank documents with only the ID number and using different names, date of birth, and other fictitious information to open up other accounts. So in order for us to start, we must first have a starting point. We will use our GoodLabs developed query to identify individuals misusing IDs and set the limit to 5 for the purpose of this investigation. Now, as you can see, it appears that we have two groups that are using or misusing the identifications here. The interesting part about this is that we see there's one specific name that appears for a total of 3 times in different variations. And the group on the left-hand side is using one ID, one driver's license, while the group on the right-hand side is using another driver's license. So like previously mentioned, we have an individual by the name of Alexander McLaughlin on the left-hand side, and we have an individual by the name of McLaughlin Alex on the right-hand side. Now, although it appears that they could be potentially the same individual, we must further dive into this to understand the problem a little bit more. So, with that said, we can first draw what is known as the shortest path between these individuals. So we would select one individual from the left-hand column and one individual from the right-hand column, and to identify what the shortest path between these two individuals are. This will give us the immediate relationship between the two. And in this instance, as we can see, it appears that Alexander McLaughlin is transferring funds to Ward, Rowe, and Dickens, which in turn is transferring funds into Hamas Spies, which in turn is receiving transfers from McLaughlin Alex as displayed. So with that said, now we have a direct relationship between the two groups, and they are no longer two groups, but rather one group or one cluster. In order to further dive deeper into this, we must first start identifying additional potential compromised or misused identifications and continue to draw on the connection between the two. So with that said, let's use another query to identify individuals that are potentially using the same name. This query is known as the fuzzy logic search name, and in this instance, we will use Alexander McLaughlin. And again, we will set the limit to 5 for the purpose of this demonstration. So once we run the logic behind this query, we see that we have identified 2 other individuals now on the right-hand side. It appears that one individual uses a different last name, while the other individual is using the same name, Alexander McLaughlin, however, with a different spelling variation. So, knowing that there is one individual that's sharing a different name, let's go ahead and remove that individual since they're not a part of our investigation. And then look towards investigating the new identified form or variation of Alexander McLaughlin. In order to do so, let's go ahead and identify what identifications this individual is using. And as you can see now, we've identified that this one specific individual is using 3 forms of identification: 2 passports and 1 driver's license. Okay, now we definitely need to expand a little bit more to understand what the relationship of this new individual is, tying back to the previously identified cluster. And in order to do so, let's go ahead and identify what potential other individuals are using the newly found 3 IDs as well as the previously identified IDs. So again, we are able to expand using the graph analytics here. And as you can see now, we have identified new 4 individuals that are also using the same forms of identification, the new ones that we've identified, as well as the two previous ones that we have identified. So again, in order to dig deeper into this, we must continue to expand and identify what potential identifications these four individuals are using to identify more of how this situation is occurring. So as you can see now, leveraging the power of graph, furthermore, we had identified that the newly identified four individuals are misusing new forms of identifications. In this case, I see four new identifications that are being misused by these individuals as well. So expanding on this a little bit more, we can continue to leverage this and identify newly individuals that are also misusing IDs to get a better understanding of how the complexity of this relationship continues to expand. So similar to what we did before, we will identify other individuals that are using these IDs. And as you can see, now we have a new subset of group. In this instance, let's change the layout here to get a better look at how the relationships are all connected. And as you can see now, our cluster continues to grow and our hidden network continues to grow. And it appears that they're all directly related through whether it's entities or other forms of identification, as well as through other individuals that are directly using the same identification number here. So with that said, we can, in this instance, leverage an algorithm known as the Luvian algorithm. Once we apply the algorithm and identify by unique colors, this will help us detect a community-based detection to uncover the communities within a certain network. So as you can see here, now we have 5 new communities that are all linked into a single cluster. And all these communities can potentially present a single group that can be investigated by multiple different analysts working towards the same common investigation. Thank you, and that's all we have for today.